In the quiet village of Umuk, nestled between hills and forests, lived a young girl named Adis. She was just 15, a quiet and humble student in SS2 at St. Mary's Secondary School. Adis was different, not just because she was unusually smart, or because her eyes sometimes seemed to glow when she was angry, but because of her long, thick natural dreadlocks. Passed down from her late grandmother, her hair was not just for beauty, it carried a mysterious power she herself didn't understand. From her first day at school, Adis was a target. Students whispered behind her back, calling her names like a bush girl and Vogbanj. Some even spread rumors that she was a witch. The teachers didn't help either. One even asked her to cut her hair if she wanted to be civilized. But Adis always remembered her grandmother's words, "Your hair is your crown, your strength, and your gift. Never let the world take it from you." The worst of her tormentors was a girl named Chioma, the most popular girl in school. Chioma came from a rich home and always had girls following her around like shadows. Together with her crew, Ngozi, Ifeoma, and Amoka, they made Adis' life miserable. They would pull her hair, pour water on her seat, and even write "witch" on her locker. Yet Adis never retaliated. She kept her pain to herself, crying into her pillow every night. But what nobody knew was that Adis had dreams, strange dreams. In them, her grandmother would appear, standing in a forest of fireflies, whispering secrets about her powers. She would say, "There's a time to endure and a time to rise." Each time Adis woke up with her dreadlocks glowing faintly and her palms warm, as if holding energy. She still didn't understand what it meant until the day they went too far. It was Inter-House Sports Day. While other students were celebrating, Chioma and her gang cornered Adis behind the school hall. They had planned it. With scissors in hand, they pinned her down. "Let's see if you'll still be special without these dirty ropes," Chioma hissed. As the scissors touched her hair, something inside Adis snapped. Her eyes turned fiery red, the earth trembled slightly, and the scissors flew out of Chioma's hand as if pushed by an invisible force. The girl screamed, backing away in fear. But it was too late. Adis stood up slowly, her dreadlocks rising like they were alive. Wind swirled around her even though the day was still. Her voice, calm yet thunderous, echoed, "You've mocked me for too long. You've spat on my heritage. Now, you will feel what it means to disrespect the gift of the spirits." The air grew heavy. The ground beneath their feet cracked slightly, and the girls fell to their knees, unable to move. Chioma tried to speak but her voice was gone. Ngozi fainted. Ifeoma wept loudly, begging for mercy. Amoka crawled on the floor, trying to escape, but an unseen force pulled her back. Adis walked towards them, her dreadlocks floating like ropes of judgment. But just when it seemed like she would unleash full punishment, a vision of her grandmother appeared before her, only she could see it. "Adis," the vision said gently, "vengeance is not power. Mercy is." With tears in her eyes, Adis raised her hands and the wind stopped. The ground calmed. Her hair fell gently back onto her shoulders. The girls could move again. They ran, terrified, never looking back. The story spread like wildfire. By the next morning, students were afraid to even look her in the eye. Teachers whispered, and the principal called her parents. But instead of punishing her, they begged her to explain. Adis simply said, "I defended myself." She was no longer afraid. With confidence, she walked through the school like a queen. Nobody dared to bully her again. Strangely, students started approaching her with respect, asking her for advice, even friendship. Chioma never returned to school again. As for Adis, she began to explore her power slowly, understanding that her dreadlocks were more than just hair, they were a spiritual link to her ancestors. Years later, Adis became a powerful healer and protector of her community. People came from far and near to seek her wisdom. She never forgot the pain of being bullied, but she also never forgot the power of mercy. In her compound, under a tall Iroko tree, hung a sign that read, "True power is knowing when to strike and when to forgive." And those who heard her story always left with more than healing, they left with respect. Life seemed peaceful for a while. Addis focused on her studies, graduating at the top of her class. She kept to herself, visiting the forest often to connect with her grandmother's spirit. But something started changing in the village. Strange things began happening, livestock disappearing, wells running dry overnight, and villagers falling sick with no explanation. At first, the elders thought it was ordinary misfortune. But Addis could sense a darker presence lurking. One night, while meditating under the moonlight, she had a powerful dream. A black vulture circled above her while a masked figure in red stood at the edge of the forest, chanting in a tongue she couldn't understand. Her grandmother appeared again, her face filled with worry. "The balance has been broken," she whispered. "There's one who wishes to use forbidden powers, and you are the only one who can stop him." Addis woke up sweating, her dreadlocks tangled with leaves, as if the forest had truly spoken to her. She began to investigate quietly. After weeks of spiritual searching, she discovered that the trouble began when a new herbalist came to Umuk, a tall, charming man called Dibia Okonkwo. He claimed to be a healer, but Addis noticed that wherever he visited, misfortune followed. She tried to warn the elders, but they dismissed her. "You are still a child, Addis. This man is wise and gifted." They didn't know that Okonkwo had tapped into forbidden ancestral powers to grow his influence. Addis needed guidance. She returned to the sacred cave deep within the forest, the place her grandmother once told her never to enter unless in great danger. As she stepped inside, she felt her body vibrate. In the center of the cave, a pool of glowing water reflected her face, only her reflection had markings she didn't have. Suddenly, a deep voice filled the space. "Are you ready to bear the weight of your gift?" Without hesitation, she nodded. The water rose from the pool, wrapping around her like a robe. Her dreadlocks lifted into the air, glowing with light. Visions rushed into her mind, images of past years, powerful women who had carried the same gift. When she opened her eyes, she felt renewed. The forest whispered around her, birds paused in flight, and even the trees seemed to bow. Addis was no longer a girl, she had fully awakened to her calling. The confrontation was inevitable. One evening, as the sun began to set, Dibia Okonkwo gathered villagers for a ritual. He promised to bring rain and restore the dying crops. Addis arrived in silence, standing at the back of the crowd. Her eyes met Okonkwo's, and he froze. He could feel her power. "This land does not belong to darkness," she said, stepping forward. "You brought curses masked as blessings. You must leave." Okonkwo laughed darkly, lifting his staff. Black smoke rose from the ground, and his eyes turned red. "You are just a child with hair and dreams," he spat. But Addis stood her ground. She stretched her hands, and the earth responded. Wind howled, trees bent, and her dreadlocks lifted like they had a life of their own. A beam of light shot from her palm, breaking Okonkwo's staff. The black smoke vanished, and a loud cry erupted from his chest. The villagers screamed and scattered. Okonkwo tried to run, but the ground beneath him split open. From within, ghostly hands reached out, pulling him into the earth. His cries echoed for a moment, then silence. The clouds parted, and for the first time in weeks, the sky turned blue. Rain began to fall gently, as if the heavens were pleased. The villagers returned slowly, falling to their knees before Addis. Chief Okafor, the village elder, approached her with trembling hands. "Forgive us, Addis. We did not know who you were." She raised him gently. "It is not about me," she said softly. "It's about protecting our land, our truth, and the old ways." From that day, Addis was no longer seen as strange. She became a guardian of Umuk, a young woman of wisdom, strength, and mercy. Even the animals seemed to respect her presence. But Addis knew the journey was just beginning. As powerful as she had become, the world was still full of those who would use their gifts for evil. She made it her mission to find other young people like herself, those with powers, misunderstood and bullied, just as she had been. She opened a school of the gifted in the heart of the forest, where dreadlocks were worn with pride, and heritage was celebrated. Her story, once mocked, became a legend told by Moonlight, the girl with dreadlocks who faced darkness with light.